Hey, this is Eric, and in this video we're doing a 20-minute crash course into Google Sheets where we'll explore view options, freezing rows and columns, sorting data, filtering data, formulas, charts and graphs, sparklines, conditional formatting, and even pivot tables. This session was recorded live at the 2022 ISTE conference.
Hey, all right. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for being here. These are like 20-minute sessions, so I'm going to talk really fast and try to make the most out of the time that we have here. So thank you so much for being here. I'm in here back-to-back sessions. So this one is about analyzing student data with Google Sheets. So sort of like a Google Sheets crash course. If you've never used Google Sheets before, even if you've used it a bit and you're just wanting to go a little deeper with it, that's the idea of this session, is to help you get comfortable with some of the basic key things of Google Sheets and how you can use it in this example today to analyze student data. Now you could use it for a lot of other things besides that, but that's what we're using for our example today. There's a link on the screen there that if you want to open up, feel free to. You don't have to, but it has all the resources, even if you want to jot down the link and just access it later. It's also linked in the ISTE website, so you can get to it there as well. bit.ly/kurtz-data/kurtz-data. There you go. That will get you to this Google document here, and that has all the stuff we're going to be playing around with here during this session. It does have two templates in there that I'm going to be using, and so again, if you want to try these things out while we're going through this here today, on page 2 of the agenda, you'll see templates. There's template 1 and template 2. That'll let you make copies of these two spreadsheets. This is the first spreadsheet, and this is the second one. And so if you do want to make copies of those to try out some of the stuff, just giving you a little bit of heads up before we dive into it so you can follow along if you want to. All right, while you're pulling all that stuff up, quick introduction. So hi everybody, my name is Eric Kurtz. I'm an educator from Northeast Ohio, and happy to be here doing about 8 sessions this year at ISTE. So just throw my name into the search there and you'll find some other ones that I'm doing, and would love to connect with you at some of the other sessions. I do run the website Control-Alt-Achieve as well, so if you're not familiar with that, I'm that guy who does that site. Today though, like I said, we're going to be looking at using Google Sheets to analyze student data, but I'm using it kind of as an example just to show you a bunch of neat features in Google Sheets that maybe you're familiar with, maybe not. So we're going to talk about view options, sorting data, filtering data, formulas, charts and graphs, sparklines, conditional formatting, and pivot tables. You're like, really, in 20 minutes? We'll see. We're going to try. So let's go ahead and dive on into this. Again, everything can be found at bit.ly/kurtz-data. So what I've done here, like we said, is we've got two templates, and those are linked in the agenda. You can also get to them at bit.ly/kurtz-student data and student data 2. But these two templates are meant to represent, what could be some student data. So the first one, template 1, it's all fake data. But it's a bunch of students and their grade levels and student IDs, their address, phone numbers, their class period, whether they ride the bus or not, and scores on recent tests. So that's what the first one looks like. And the second one, if we get to it in our time, this one is data where students have, the way it's set up is it's as if they are filling out a form each day, and this is collecting those responses where they're rating their understanding for the day. So they're rating themselves on a 1 to 4 scale. How well did you understand the class today? And so this has, again, all fake data, but just a whole bunch of entries of students ranking their understanding over a period of several days. So that's what those two templates are. Well, let's go ahead and dive into our first template, which is the one with the sample student data that we saw there. And we're going to start off by talking about view options, which is one of the first things you can do to wrangle your data and make the best of it, is learning how you can freeze rows and columns. Because when I jump into this, one of the first things, I'm going to zoom in just a bit so we can, and we'll mention that too. That was the other thing I was going to mention, was the zoom tool. Sometimes it's hard to see the data, so there is a zoom tool up here in the top left-hand corner. I'm going to use that so I can see the data a little bit better here. But once you do that, you'll notice that when I start scrolling down, my headers disappear. And now I'm like, well, it's probably not too hard to tell that's a phone number and that's an address. But sometimes when you get to data like test scores or other things, you're like, I don't even remember what that column was. And so one of the first things I want to show you is the benefit of freezing rows and columns. And you can do that a couple of ways. One is to go to the very top left-hand corner where there's that blank rectangle there. Below there, you'll see a thick gray line, and to the right of that, a thick gray line. When you hover your mouse above that, it changes from a regular mouse pointer to a hand. You can click, hold down, grab that thick gray bar, pull it down, and it freezes that row. Now, as I scroll, I don't lose that information at the top. I can also do the same thing with a thick gray line to the right, and I could freeze the names. So while I scroll to the side, now I'm not losing my names as well. So that's a really good thing to get you started with when you're trying to view all the data that you've got to work through. Let's keep going. What else can we do? Next up, sorting data. Probably one of the most common things when you're dealing with spreadsheets is sorting the data. And there's ways to do it depending upon if you're sorting by one criteria or multiple criteria. Well, let's say that I just want to sort by one thing. Like, for example, maybe I just want to look at the last test we had and I want to see how did the students do. Let's sort them by, high to low or low to high. If you're just sorting by one criteria, it's so easy to do. As long as you click inside of that column, somewhere in the column, and then go up to your data menu, you'll see in the data menu there's a sort sheet option. And in there it says, do you want to sort the entire sheet by column M? I sure do. From A to Z or Z to A? Oh, let's do from Z to A, high to low. Well, now I've got the highest scores at the top and the lowest scores at the bottom, and it has sorted the entire sheet. Now, that's another great reason for having the freeze bar. That way my headers don't get sorted as well. It keeps them right where they're at, and everything else sorts. Now, that's great if you're just sorting by one item. But what if you want to sort by multiple things? Like maybe I want to sort by their grade level, and then I want to sort by a recent test score. Well, if I need to sort by multiple criteria, an easy way to do that is to start by selecting the entire spreadsheet. And you can do that with that little blank rectangle in the top left. If you click that, it grabs everything. With everything selected, if I go back up to data, instead of sorting sheet, I can choose sort range, and I can choose advanced range sorting options. That's going to let me do more than one column at a time, whereas sorting the sheet just does by one column. So if I go to sort range, after selecting everything, because we want to sort the whole sheet, I can then go to advanced range sorting options, and I can say, okay, my data does have a header row, and I want to start by sorting by their grade level. Maybe from, low to high, that's fine. But then after that, I want to sort by their score from their first test, and we'll have that one go from high to low. And you can keep adding as many of these as you want, and it's going to do that sort by first grade level and then by their score. So if I hit sort, you'll now see I have grade 9 and then 10, 11, and 12, and inside of each of those, I now have them sorted by their scores inside of those grade bands. Now, one thing I'll throw in as just a little extra here is if you do need to sort by the students' names, sometimes they come together like this, which isn't very helpful. I've got the students' first and last names together. Well, the cool thing is Sheets has a built-in splitting feature for splitting text into columns. And so if I wanted to, let me temporarily unfreeze this. There we go. And let's say I want to add a new column in there where I can split the first name and last name apart so I can sort by their last name. Well, what I can do is I can right-click on the column and insert a new column to the right. So I've got a little room, need a little room to work with here because I need a spot for first and last. I can now choose all of column A. And if I go up to my data menu, near the bottom, there's a spot that says split text to columns. If I click on that, Google's going to ask me, what do you want to split on? What's the delimiter? What's the thing that splits? In this case, it's a space. First name, space, last name. So I'm going to say, let's split text to columns. And it will say, what is the separator? I'm going to say, it's a space. And as soon as I do that, boom, it goes through and splits those up. Oh my gosh! Oh my, I should have led with that. Okay, I definitely buried the lead, didn't I? Okay, there you go. Well, whew, that's great. Well, okay. We're done. No, It's just downhill from here now. But there you go. So yeah, but now that would allow me to come in and say, okay, I want to do a sort by last name, for example. So if I go to data, sort, and I sort by column B, now I've sorted by last name as well. So nice to have that. By the way, if you need to resize columns, you can drag those back and forth as needed, or just double click on the little divider line between two columns and it will auto resize it. So that's nice to save a little space. Let's keep going because we got lots more to look at still. In addition to sorting data, we might want to filter data. Now, filtering data typically works better, well, it's more efficient when you have a ton of data. We don't really have that much data in this sample, but we'll still demonstrate this. Filtering is where you say, I want to hide data that I don't need to see other than just the core stuff I'm looking for. So let's say I come here and I go, I just temporarily just want to look at the 11th graders for whatever reason. I just need to see the 11th graders and pretend that we have like, thousands of rows of data here. Well, that could be a lot to try to, even if you sorted it, you still have a lot to get through there. So what we can do is we can turn on filtering. Now you can do that a couple of ways. If we go up to our data menu, we can click create a filter there, or if you go over to the toolbar, there's a little filter icon. Looks kind of like a martini glass without a bottom there. Not that any of us have seen any of those at the conference. But if I come here and I go to create a filter, what it does is it puts these little drop downs at the top of each of the columns. So I could come here to grade level, click on the drop down and say, okay, let's uncheck 9, 10, and 12 and just leave 11 checked. Or I could say clear all and then just check 11, whatever's faster. Hit OK. And now it temporarily hides the rest of that data. So I'm only looking at my 11th graders, for example. And you can stack this. You can say, okay, I want to look at just the 11th graders and just the ones who are riding the bus. So, we'll say just the true for that. And you can keep stacking these filters until you get just the subset of students you're looking for. At that point, you can even come in and you can select those rows. You can copy those rows, and you could even go into a new spreadsheet and you could paste those in, and now you have just that data pulled out and you can work with it if you want to. You don't have to do that, but that's a great way to grab a subset of data. When you're all done with the filtering, you can just go back up and click on the remove filter button, and it takes all those filters back off, and now you're back to normal. You can also filter by condition. So if I come here and I turn the filter back on, instead of saying, grade level 11, I could come over and say, okay, I want to filter by score, but I want to filter, that's too many to click on. I don't want to click. I want to find everybody who's below a 75. It's like, oh, well, I guess I could click on every one of those, but that's going to take a long time. If you click filter by condition, you can say, I want to put a condition in here. Filter by any time there is a number that is less than or equal to my cutoff, like let's say 75. Now, if I do that, I may have to zoom out here to see the OK button. It's probably down at the bottom here. Hold on. Oh, where's my OK button? There it is. There we go. And now I'll zoom back in. Sorry about that. And now it has filtered just the scores that are 75 or below. So use that if you've got a ton of data and you're trying to narrow it down. Okay, let's keep going. Other things we might want to do. Formulas. So they're a little scary sometimes that, Google does a lot to help you with formulas. Let's say we want to throw in an average here. And so we come over here and say, let's put an average column in. And so I'll put in average for the header, and that's just for my own benefit. That doesn't do anything there. But in the cell below, let's say I want to put in a formula that averages the last 6 scores that we've got here. Well, if you're not sure how to do formulas, it all starts by pressing the equals button. If you press the equals key, that's going to put you into formula mode. And Google is, first of all, the AI is going to go, maybe you want, and it's going to give you some suggestions. And it is actually figuring out already what I want. It's like, do you want to average from I2 over to N2? And I could just be like, yep, that's great. And so you could take what the suggestion is. If it isn't exactly what you're looking for, basically you can just start typing in the word that you want, in this case average, and it will give you all of the different average formulas. And I'll go, yep, I'm just looking for the regular average formula. And then if you're not sure how to use it, there's a little drop down here that will teach you about that formula. So it'll talk you through step by step what you need to do. The AI will usually pick a good formula for you, but if not, this will walk you through it. Now at this point I could type in I2 through N2, which is the range I'm looking for. But if you don't feel like typing in, you can also just take your mouse, click and drag, and as you select them, it'll fill in the cell references for you as well. So there's so many ways that Google Sheets helps you build a formula. When you're done, press enter, it fills it in, and it says, would you just like me to copy this down for you the rest of the way? And you can certainly say yes. If I don't say yes to that, then I can still do it myself by clicking and dragging that formula down, or by double-clicking on the little blue square, and it will fill it down until it hits the bottom of your data there. Of course, if I want the average to be cleaned up a little bit, I can reduce or increase the decimal places as need be. Okay, what else can we get in here? Next up, charts and graphs. Yeah, maybe we want to take a look at this average that we've just created now. We want to make it maybe a histogram showing how the grades fall into different categories. That's really easy to do as well. I can grab my column. I can come up here to Insert and go down to Chart. And when I do, Google's going to try to guess what it wants the chart to be. It's choosing a column chart. That's not what I'm wanting in this particular case, so I can come here to the chart editor, and I can choose from all of these different charts. Well, in this case, I think a histogram would be a good one. What a histogram does is it drops the data into different buckets, and then I can even go in and customize that and say, I want to customize the histogram, and I'll change the bucket size to maybe every 5 points. And there we go. As simple as that, I now have a grade distribution for every 5 points to see how those grades are falling. If it's hard to see, you can drag it around, or better yet, if you click on the chart, you can click the little 3 dots in the top right and choose Move to Own Sheet. And it will move it out of that sheet onto its own tab, which will be a lot easier to see. I can go back to the original sheet, and I can pop over to that one anytime I need to see the updated chart. All right, what else can we do? Oh, Sparklines, these are fun. So Sparklines allow you to put a little chart inside of a cell. So in this case, I'm going to come back over here, and let's say I want to put in a Sparkline that is basically showing me the trend. So I'm just going to call this trend up here. I want to see the grade trend of the students. Well, a Sparkline is a special chart, special graph that's actually a formula. It's not really a chart, it's actually a formula. So if I press equals and I start typing in the word spark, you'll see Sparkline is a formula. Click on that. And what it does is it asks me to choose the data I want to make a Sparkline of. Well, I'm going to choose score 1 through 6 since the average might throw that off. I just want to see the actual last 6 scores. And when I press enter, boom, it makes this cool little graph that, again, I can double click to see. And now I've got a trend graph for every student there. And I probably should refreeze my students' names because we don't know who they are. We'll refreeze our students here. Oh, there we go. That's easier now. Now I can see them, and now I can see my students and their trend lines there. All right, what else can we do? We're still doing okay. Conditional formatting. Conditional formatting allows us to color code cells based on certain conditions. So let's say I come in here and go, you know what, this is great, but there's a ton of data and I'm kind of overwhelmed looking at all of this. I really need it to just jump out and show me my at-risk students. So maybe any student who has a grade 70 or below, I need to see those students quickly. Well, what I can do is I can take my mouse and select all of these columns that I want to apply this to, and then if I go up to my Format menu, I can go down to Conditional Formatting. This is going to let me put in a rule that says anytime there's a cell whose value is above this, below this, equal to that, whatever, make it a certain color. So if I come into Conditional Formatting, I could say, let's do this. Let's choose a formula that says anytime the value is less than or equal to, let's say 70. Then, how do I want to format it? Well, I've got these different options here. Let's format it red and hit done, and there we go. Now, I can easily look at this, and very quickly, I can see anytime there's a student whose grade is 70 or below. And it is live, so if I came in here and the 72 became a 70, that would then turn red, and if the 68 became a 73, that would no longer be red. So it gives me a chance to see that really quick. Conditional formatting, awesome way to help you narrow in and zoom in on at-risk students. And that gets us to our final thing. We actually made it there, pivot tables in like 2 minutes. Really? Yeah, we're going to try it. So a pivot table is an amazing tool that allows you to summarize data into subtotals. So it doesn't make a lot of sense on this sheet. This sheet, wouldn't need a pivot table. This one, though, remember I said this is from a Google form where the students were saying, what's my understanding? And so the same students show up. So here's Jim Shorts, and here he is again, and here he is again. Anybody notice, kind of interesting names we've got there. Sarah Bellum, she's really smart. So anyway, though, let's say I wanted to see a summary of how those students have been rating their understanding each day. That's hard to do just by sorting and filtering. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my data here, and I'm going to go to Insert. Nope, go away, buddy. I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to Pivot Table, and I'm going to say, go ahead and create a new sheet. And what it does is makes a new tab where I get to fill in rows, columns, values, and filters. I'm going to show you this really fast, but here's the idea. Under the rows, I'm going to say, add in the names of the students. Boom, it grabs all their names. Under columns, I'm going to say, show me the different choices they could have made for their understanding, okay? So 1 through 4s. And then for values, let's do the same thing. Let's grab their rate your understandings, and let's count up how many times they answered each of those. So instead of summing it, I'm going to choose count, and it's counting those up. And for filters, we can probably say we don't need any of the blanks, so we could take off the blanks, and we could also take off any blanks on rating your understanding. We don't need those in there. And with all of that done, I will reformat this now real quick. Whoops. I just undid something, Control Z, put that back in there. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center these real quick so that we can see these a little bit better here. There we go. And so what we've got now is, without any crazy amount of work, we've got all of our students and how many times they rated themselves as understanding out of 1, 2, 3, or 4. It sums all of that up for us. So if you've got a lot of data with recurring information, a pivot table will let you do summaries of that so you can just see it at a glance. Well, guys, I know that is a ton of stuff to throw at you real quick there, but I hope it shows you a few ideas about sheets and go, I want to explore that more. I want to dig into that a little bit deeper. So thank you for letting me expose you to those things, and you can always get back to these resources anytime at bit.ly/Kurtz-data.
And for all the rest of my educational technology resources, be sure to visit my site at controlaltachieve.com, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, sign up for my email newsletter, and check out my book, Control Alt Achieve: Rebooting Your Classroom with Creative Google Projects. Thanks so much, and take care.